Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Build in El Salvador show. We are two entrepreneurs who have made the move down here to El Salvador to be part of the bottom up renaissance. My name is Michael Ruiz.
And I'm Jordan Herbs.
And yeah, we have an amazing show for you today. Jordan, you want to tell them about it?
Today's our Build in Public show. It's always amazing. And, there should be a lot of good information for you if you are curious about coming to do things in El Salvador. We're going to share a lot about just our everyday experiences that you don't really hear about so much in tweets or blog posts or whatever it is about El Salvador. And for any of you entrepreneurs, there could be some tidbits of value as well.
Yeah, we're going to go over stories, updates, lessons we've learned, exciting news, the latest developments, all in a manner of being totally transparent and open to you guys so you can learn from what we've been up to.
Yeah, there's definitely a component of magic when it comes to building in El Salvador and I think entrepreneurship in general. So we're going to share that with you today.
Yep. And today we have a special guest in the house to help us out. We got Paul Pendergrass. He is the newest member to the Sovereignty Studios team in the house. He's our community manager. It's good to have him. He'll be chiming in here and there. So, yeah, let's get right into it.
Say hello, Paul.
It's a pleasure to be here, guys.
Nice.
Right.
All right, cool. So where should we start? Should we start with the journey so far? Okay, let's talk about where we are in, our journey down to El Salvador. We originally came in June. Late June 20th, around there, right?
So it's been about a month and a half.
Yeah. And, it's come with its own set of challenges, moving to a new country, moving into a new house, and just getting acclimated to a new culture and just everything that goes along with that has been, has had its challenges. It's had its many good times as well, but one of the things that we've dealt with here at the Sovereignty Studios HQ is that we're in a new development and they're just building this out and they're not completely finished yet. In particularly at our HQ here, they had to do construction in the front and in the back while we're building out the infrastructure for Sovereignty Studios.
And you have an interior decorator on the inside.
Yeah, and we had an interior decorator on the inside. So it's right off the bat, we came into a chaotic situation and we had to make it work and still build out our infrastructure, get this show off the ground and launch.
And you're living here.
And we're living here.
So there's like a lot going on in one house. And, my wife and I, we don't see the end of it. Like we're in the same neighborhood. We have a separate house from the headquarters, but we're on the same block basically. And yesterday was the third or fourth time our hot water's gone out. And so they have to come fix it. And the first time it's like, oh, it's the guys that installed the heater. It's they did it. And then the second time it's like, no, it's the electrical. That's the problem. And now this time, both the hot water heater installation guys and the development's electrical guys had to come together to talk about it because they can't figure out why our water keeps going off. And this is just the nature of living in a place where no one's lived before.
Yeah. So there's definitely some aspects about this all that builds up your resiliency and, increases your capacity for stress and what you're capable of enduring, all while at the same time being productive.
Hopefully, or it just scares you away and you're out of here.
Well, I can tell you it had that effect on me. Like I now know that I can deal with challenges a lot more easy just because of the last month and a half of what we had to go through here. I realized that it doesn't matter what the circumstances are outside of, the studio, how much chaos is going on. We have the ability as a team to sit down, to focus our attention, to put a plan together and to execute. Because look how far we've come in this last month and a half, despite all the interruptions, all the noise, all the construction, all the power outages, the water outages, and so forth. Like we went through the gauntlet and look what we've been able to get to now.
Yeah, we've gone from a team of 2 to a team of 4. We've got our first offer out there. We've got money in the books. We're taking payments. We've got our first thing going on. It's happening. We've been doing shows at least twice a week.
Yeah, we didn't let any of the external circumstances stop us from going through with the show.
And that's the mindset anyone needs to have if they're going to take a new business seriously. I
Yeah,
think
it's
that's the
like
point.
do whatever it takes to get the job done because it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be pretty, a lot of the times, and you're just going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to push through that and come out the other end.
And honestly, having a team makes it a lot easier. When you're a group of people with a shared mission, it makes sticking to your guns when times get tough a lot easier, in my experience.
Yeah, man. It builds camaraderie, right? In a sense, like people go to retreats to do team building exercises with with their company, with their startup or whatever, right? For us, like just working was a team building exercise, right? Working through that itself, created the pressure necessary to reveal people's character and see what our team is made of. And so
Yes.
that itself has been a team building exercise. But yeah, um, you know, from that, there was just a lot of hard work that came from that. We were able to execute, and when you're taking steps towards your goals, when you're able to, put a plan together, detail out the steps that need to be taken, and actually go forward with them. There's all types of magic that happens from that. One of the things that we spoke about was that as we move forward, there's going to be all these unforeseen opportunities that arise because there's something about putting a plan together and executing that the world notices. They say, "Hey, these guys are onto something," and energy starts coming our way. And that was another thing that I realized in this whole month and a half is that, yeah, as you actually do what you're going to say you're going to do, and you're moving towards a stated goal, like people are going to notice and they're going to want to work with you. They're going to want to collaborate with you. They're going to want to, present all types of opportunities. So that was really cool to see.
Yeah, and we've had some surprises in that realm. And I'd say Paul here is one of those surprises. Paul just pretty much showed up and now he's part of our team, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's been an amazing opportunity to join the Sovereignty Studios team, add value where I can, and I'm excited for what's to come.
Yeah. And then another big surprise, which is so our first offer I mentioned earlier, that's a retreat. We're going to bring people to see El Salvador and discover it and learn about what's going on here, and basically a whole package of, hey, get to know El Salvador. It took us 6 months to do it in a weekend. We'll connect you with people we know, our network, all that. And Michael, would you do the honors announcing who this surprise is?
Yeah, so it's one of the things that we really wanted to do was put on a good service, right? We wanted to create something that we felt was absolutely necessary and needed here in El Salvador, which was a retreat, a package to get all the information you need, and have a good time and experience El Salvador in a magical way. And as we moved forward with that goal, we had Max Kaiser and Stacy Herbert reach out to us. They told us they like what we're doing and they want to be part of it. So yeah, that was the big news. That really was a shot of adrenaline for me. It was good confirmation. We're on the right track. And I'm really proud of what we've been able to do so far.
Well, and if we dissect that for a little bit, which you kind of already did, but just to put it in terms of Max and Stacy are high profile figures here. I would argue the biggest, at least gringo celebrities in El Salvador. They're big figures, and they've been following you for a while. They've been following me too, but I don't think they know who I am. But they've been following you for a while, and you've been proving the work. You've been showing it. You've been telling your story, and they see that you're actually doing something for real. They saw the offer. They're like, oh wow, like this guy's for real. So that proof was there for them to be like, oh hey, we want to be part of it. Not to mention, which it goes to show with this is a small country, but in any case, if you're building a business or doing some entrepreneurial endeavor, when you're doing something that someone else is loosely related to and they see the potential for collaboration, like it's in their best interest and as their jobs as Bitcoin advisors here to bring more people to El Salvador for this retreat to be a success, because we're helping bring people here, introduce them here to potentially become residents here, which is exactly what they're trying to get people to do.
Yeah, and if you think about it, Max wants to bring. I think his goal was 10,000 people here to Bitcoin country, and so yeah, if he sees us as potentially, our project as potentially overlapping with that, absolutely.
This is
Yeah.
just the beginning. Like they're going to show up at this. Like we haven't even talked to them yet, right? Like they're going to come to this, and like this whole retreat, or especially the party we're throwing, is gonna blow the lid open. We don't even know what's gonna happen, but we're prepared. We have a foundation. We're ready.
Yeah, and you know what? One thing leads to another. Now we have other high profile speakers wanting to come too. And I'm not ready to name those names yet, but it's just one of those things where sometimes you don't know how things are going to transpire or unfold. You just have to have faith. You got to take the steps. You got to put your foot out there, one foot in front of the other, and just, have faith that the things will unfold the way that they're supposed to unfold in a positive and productive way.
Yeah, and just think how long, Michael, you and I were independently just like putting content out there, and like talking about stuff and like working on businesses and trying to build something. And it's just like, you got to do it. It's just the rite of passage. It takes time to finally catch on to something or ride a wave or like catch momentum of what people want to see, want to buy, whatever. But you got to do it. And you got to find your niche both in an audience, but also in what satisfies you to do it and keeps you driven, because eventually you're going to want to give up. But if you keep working at it, something eventually will click.
Yeah, it's fighting through that desire or that impulse to give up, say, man, nothing's going right. I mean, how long were we at this before we got to this level where we're at right now, right? It took us 7 months, 8 months of just, I mean, maybe even longer than that, because prior to coming to El Salvador, we were working together, creating you were coaching me on creating video content. And, I was trying to figure out how to create an offer where I could utilize my skill set and get compensated as well, right? It's kind of like the ikigai, where it satisfies all these needs, right? It's not only does it pay me well, but it also gives me fulfillment and I'm actually good at it. And so we were trying to figure out a way to market myself, to put my coaching offer out there. But one thing led to another, and here we are almost a year later, and we have a retreat. And it made me realize that Sovereignty Studios is more than a media and events company. It's actually, a platform to build community from and become a gateway to El Salvador.
You know what's interesting too? Like, sorry, I'm going to respond to something you said earlier. It's
Sure.
like, literally, this retreat only works because of your videos now. That's how you and I started getting working together. And now literally the marketing for this retreat is you on video.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I think it's a team effort, right? None of this would be possible without Matthias, without you, and now with Paul here. It's going to be a big addition, but it's all the capital that we've built up in our own special ways over the years. That's the way I see it. Like, we're each bringing. It's like I joke about it a little bit, but yeah, okay, it's similar to like the Avengers, or back in my day, like the Power Rangers or Captain Planet. It's like, with our powers combined, we can create something bigger than ourselves. And it's been amazing to watch happen, because it's all this confirmation that, oh, this is possible.
Yeah, and then we talked about this before, but not staying too attached to what you think it has to look like, and allow it to unfold organically, allow it to just grow into what it is. And so to that point you made a minute ago, which was, it looks like Sovereignty Studios is actually kind of a platform for community building. We're trying to be, I mean, we are just doing community building. I mean, look at this big party we're trying to throw, and the people we're inviting, and people coming to the retreat. We're basically selling them a chance to meet our network. Like, we're basically just doing community building when all is said and done. And then potentially that's what media and events really is when you boil it down. Like, why do you throw events? For community. Why do you make content? In my opinion, communities gravitate around content.
I don't know. I don't think that's the case in the fiat paradigm. I think, media and events in the fiat paradigm is a lot about promotion.
You're right.
Yeah.
Maybe I just lived too far out of that paradigm. But
yeah, maybe and that's the other thing about El Salvador, right? That I've noticed. It's like, it allows me to put the blinders on, tune out clown world, and just get to work.
Yeah, and if even you think about, who we're working with, like people we in the fiat paradigm we'd call clients or whatever. Like, and we think about how we've agreed for compensation and fair exchange of value. It's like so far away from how the fiat paradigm would work. But we're in it for the partnerships of aligned values of advancing the mission forward.
Yeah, and so speaking of that, speaking of aligned partnerships, Sovereignty Studios got big news. We are partners with Adopting Bitcoin. This is, in my opinion, the ultimate conference for builders, and they're actually sponsoring the show right now. So if you've been thinking about El Salvador, you've been thinking about Bitcoin country and taking a look at where the circular economy is thriving, you should come join the Sovereignty Studios team and be part of a movement that's transforming El Salvador into a global hub for Bitcoin adoption and innovation. And really, El Salvador is setting the precedent, in my opinion, for the rest of the world to follow. And if you want to come down here, we got a special offer for you today. Just use Sov Studios promo code to get 10% off your ticket. And here's the other aspect of this. If you want to shake hands and rub elbows with the speakers and organizers of the conference, as well as be invited to exclusive events and dinners, we highly recommend you get the Privilege Access Pass. It's going to be well worth the price to make your time here in El Salvador incredible. Again, that is Sov Studios as the promo code, and we hope to see you there.
Yeah, that's the Adopting Bitcoin conference in November.
That's right.
And it's super high signal. If it's really for getting stuff done to advancing the Bitcoin standard in the world. It's not just a
And that's what we're all about, man. You know, when we came here, we have a mission. So this is one thing that I really appreciate about Sovereignty Studios. You know, we're here voluntarily, right? We're working towards becoming profitable, but we're basically giving our time and energy towards building something that's beyond ourselves, that transcends just making money and is actually about a mission, a vision, and that is to, you know, move the world past the fiat paradigm and into one built on a Bitcoin standard and empowering individuals so they can recognize their sovereignty.
yeah, and that's really what, like, we started this school community to have a place where people that are interested in this mission and caught wind of Sovereignty Studios, you can come join it. And we've got like almost 40 people in there now. But people that share this kind of vision are all showing up with the same spirit of most of them, same spirit of collaboration. Hey, let's do things together. Let's do this because it needs to be done. And so just the other day, I met up with Ben. We met, I, scoped him out and invited him over to my house, and he brought his guitar and we just jammed music all night. We recorded a bunch of songs. We're working on like a theme song for the show. We're working on songs. And, his whole idea, the reason he even showed up in the community and presented this idea, presented himself to us, was because he's like, hey, there's no good music that has anything to do with Bitcoin. It's either AI or like super maximalist shit. But what if we were actually creating good music that people would want to listen to, and it has heart? It's not just like, oh, go generate another AI song, but it's actually real art because, music is a powerful tool, and it could be a way to bring normies into understanding what Bitcoin is all about.
Music is huge. And what we're trying to do here in El Salvador is be part of this cultural renaissance,
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
A cultural revival. And, music has a way of penetrating, right, your subconscious, your psyche in a way that normal messaging may not, And so, yeah, I think it's super important, especially if we're community building and we're trying to build some type of shared culture. I think that's going to be huge.
Let's dive into that real quick, because when we were driving to the Martinez Brothers restaurant the other day, that song came on shuffle by what's his name, Rich Men North of Richmond, the hit viral sensation. And we were talking about how, like, yeah, it's a great song. It's catchy. It, shows you what's going on in the world and the fact that people love it. But it's just basically enforcing this victim mentality. It's not about taking responsibility and like figuring out something for yourself. It's still a very fiat song in many ways.
Yeah, it promotes like self-defeatism, It almost feels like learned helplessness, like, this is our situation and we're screwed and we're, and what are we going to do about it? The Northmen from Richmond, they control everything. It was just kind of like, it's not like your theme song that rallies the troops and says, let's change things. It's more like, hey, we're all down and depressed.
Well, and a song like that would never top the charts in the fiat paradigm because they wouldn't let it. Just like Hollywood movies You know, it's all like superhero, it's all like fantasy shit, happy ending. It's not real life at all.
That's right.
Romance movies, rom-coms are like, you know, they get in a fight, like then they break up and they hate each other. It's like, well, why don't they just talk like adults about it? You know, all the Hollywood, all this big mass media is all about just programming us to be continue to
NPCs.
be, yeah, NPC victims, caught in our emotion, no emotional intelligence, you know. So the new paradigm, which is what Sovereignty Studio stands for, and to my point about the music, is like, well, why don't we write songs that preach, you know, let's take responsibility for ourselves.
Yeah. And another thing, right? Daylight, right? That's another aspect about it too. Why don't we make products that actually enhance our health and our you know, I don't know what else, energy,
You know,
you know?
Daylight Computer Company. Exactly. It's a blue light free computer. And the idea here, and they're building their own operating system that they call is going to be like a sovereign OS, where, like, sure, you can still use these social media apps, but those are all designed to keep you doom scrolling. And a big part of doom scrolling has to do with the blue light's effect on your brain. So they're working on actually building bottom up technology to fix that as part of society. And like they're just an indie startup, you know, struggling to get their next it's like Silicon Valley, the show, you know?
Yeah, but this is, this is the beginnings, I think, of a new social movement, a new parallel society where people are much more conscious of what they consume, not only physically, but also mentally and spiritually, where we're taking back our agency and our sovereignty and saying, hey, we're not just going to be part of the matrix. We're not going to be part of this centrally controlled and planned society that you got for us, right? That I see the world starting, not the world. Let me backtrack. I see a segment of the world, a segment of the population going down that route and actually, following through, right? Realigning their lives, reorienting themselves towards a lifestyle that that rejects a lot of the fakeness of the fiat paradigm and embraces a lot of the reality and the groundedness of this new, world built on a Bitcoin standard and sound money and sound values.
Yeah. And thanks to Bitcoin, it's possible to fund this stuff now. It's possible to create organizations that don't need to be centrally controlled or managed or owned. I think there's always a degree of centralization when it comes to like leadership, which is important, that you could actually have shares or what have you decentralized. And so it's thanks to Bitcoin that actually we can make this stuff happen. I mean, you think of, you know, we talk about these big Bitcoin names. Imagine the wealth behind them. Imagine the wealth behind them when Bitcoin's at $1 million a coin. Like we can start funding these operations, but where are the people actually doing the operations? And
Where are the
they,
builders, right?
and they exist. They're out there. But once again, coming back to Sovereignty Studios and, you know, maybe organically this is just developing as that, but like this is a place where people can connect. It's like, hey, I have this vision. I have this goal here that contributes to this new paradigm stuff.
And you know what? For a lot of people, they're just hearing this for the first time, this kind of idea for the first time. Like, being part of a organization with a mission, right? That goes beyond just making money, where it's not your typical process for getting hired or being integrated into it. I mean, that's the way we're approaching, building our team, and we need to grow. We're already getting so much work that we need positions to fill. But the way we do it is organically. Come join our community on school, start interacting with us, start providing value where you can. Start coming to our community calls. We have a community call every Thursday. Start getting to know us, and through that, through the initial relationship building, that's how you get in where you fit in. And I think it's a new way of doing things.
Yeah, it's similar to if you're on X or whatever and you want to make a name for yourself or get yourself known, you comment, you start providing value. It's like building a brand, except it's in a smaller venue where you'll be able to be seen a lot easier.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the only thing on X is, like, I get the analogy and it's a great analogy, but there isn't spots to be filled, on there. It's not like a organization, or it's not like you're providing value for an organization in which you can fit in and get in right away, as opposed to what I think we're trying to do here, where it's like, hey, we have spots to fill. Come, like, show us. You know, it's a merit-based system. Come show us that you can fill that spot, and it's there for the taking.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I guess building your own brand on traditional social media platforms, it's very individualistic still.
Yeah, yeah.
There's not a big sense of collectivism.
Interesting. Yeah. So what else? What other lessons have you learned, Jordan? Anything that come off the top of your head?
Lessons from this community stuff? Well, still exploring it. I love how so I traveled for a long time. That was my whole lifestyle. And the reason I loved it was because I got to meet people and I slept on people's couches. And like my whole thing was about making new friends all the time. And what I love about being here in El Salvador is like the people come to us. There's all the new people, people that share my values. They've got the same like outlook on life, or outlook on the world at least.
Yeah.
And they're all here. You just get to meet them. It's great.
Well, you know, was my thesis for coming here too, right? It's like this is going to be a Schelling point for sovereign individuals to meet. To like, it just makes it easier, right? Like if you're going to pick any spot in the world to go to right now, where you're going to find like-minded people, right? If you're a Bitcoiner, if you're sovereign-minded, where's that place going to be?
Yeah, I don't know where else it would be.
Yeah. So I was like, we got to be where people are going to come in order to build our tribe. And this is an easy sell. Like this country is on a forward trajectory. They're building, the foundation from the ground up on a Bitcoin standard. They're enacting policies that are friendly towards entrepreneurs, that are going to provide prosperity for the people. And so I was like, yeah. And then, it looks like they're embracing freedom here like no other country is. And that's amazing.
Well,
And
not to mention, we can't take it for granted that there is a jurisdiction that's friendly to everything that we're talking about, everything we desire for the world, our values and all that, because it might not last forever. And if we do take it for granted, what's to say it'll even develop to where we imagine it could? Google's already here. Like the big beasts are already getting started here. Yet there is an opportunity for the decentralized paradigm to take hold here as well.
yeah, there's a window of opportunity here.
Yeah.
And if nobody takes advantage of it, who knows? Like we could lose it.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know the saying, but like when life gives you a slice of pie, like eat it.
That's a great
I don't know
saying.
what the saying is. I made that one up, but you know what I mean? It's like, hey, if you have ambitions to see the world you want to live in, now is the time, because Bukele has 5 more years. Like that could be it. There's no guarantee that it'll continue this way just because it's doing so now. There's no guarantees in this world ever. So
Yeah.
it's like, we got to take advantage of this moment.
Exactly. And that's my attitude, right? People say, well, how do you know Bukele won't turn into a dictator? And how do you know that whatever El Salvador got
It's
going
irrelevant.
on? It's irrelevant. Right now, the opportunity exists. It's the best opportunity that I see in the world. And I'm not going to sit on the sidelines wondering what if and living in fear, right? I'm going to take my chances, and I'm going to try to, have an impact the way I can in my capacity to nudge the world to a place that's a lot brighter than where we've been at.
Yeah, and it's a world where, we can bring this up in our next sci-fi show, but like, it's a world where I still don't see it. Like, we can obviously see the dystopia, the potential for dystopia, or maybe we're already there in a lot of places, but we can see what that could look like, maybe because we see it in movies. But we could also kind of see what it would look like to go backwards. So I know a lot of people that share the same values as Bitcoiners, but they're not Bitcoiners because they think Bitcoin, digital money, all that is just still going in the wrong direction. Kind of like a Unabomber type stuff, or anything with technology is just the wrong direction. We need to go back to nature, back to community, back to tribalism, grow our own food, share it, survive, have decentralized communities that way. We don't need technology to moderate anything. We just don't need it. I know a lot of people like that. And I would say that would be the counter argument, is they just believe go do that.
Which is fine too.
Yeah, and it's fine too. And I'm not saying there's a right or wrong. I'm just saying, like, what we're talking about here in El Salvador is something where, once again, I can't see it yet. I don't know what it looks like, where you have next generation, new paradigm technologies embedded in, I almost want to say a traditional way of living. It's still very capitalist. It's still very, normal, I would say, in terms of transacting and all. It's not like gift economy, what I'm talking about, like going to escape into little tribes.
Yeah, what I see here is like I said, a window of opportunity. We have the regulatory structure here to really experiment with Bitcoin and creating a circular economy and developing tools that enhance our privacy, and make us more resilient as individuals to big power structures. And so it's like, yeah, come down here, let's build. And knows how long it lasts? But whatever capital gets built from all of that, it could be moved to different parts of the world, right? So like, let's take advantage of this opportunity, see what we can develop here in El Salvador, and whatever we develop, right? We live in an information age, right? We can start exporting that to the rest of the world, and all of a sudden, you got little pockets of freedom popping up all over the place.
Hopefully. Yeah. Hopefully this all is a prototype and blueprint that other leaders, that other communities will be inspired by and start implementing it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think so. That's why I'm here.
That's why I'm here too.
Yeah, that's great. So, yeah, let's get into the community a little bit more. Paul's the community manager. So, Paul, what's it been like? Being on school, interacting with sovereign individuals over there, looking to move to El Salvador. What's your take on that?
It's been amazing. The community is a big reason why I came to El Salvador in the first place. My initial visit in January, I met amazing people in El Zante, and I felt a gravitational pull to come back as soon as possible. I sensed that there was something big being built here, not only by Bukele and the government, but by Bitcoiners and sovereign minded people. And over the last 6, 7 months, interacting more and more with them online, and now working with the Sovereign Studios school group, meeting some of these people in person over the last few days and weeks. It's been nothing short of amazing to witness the changes that are happening worldwide, and just hearing people's stories coming from all over the world, London, the United States. um, it's been an honor to get to know these people on a more personal basis and bounce ideas off of each other, and ultimately grow as an individual on this journey.
Awesome. Yeah, one of the cool things that is written about in the network state by Balaji, and I think we're living it out right now as we build Sovereignty Studios in the community and then meet each other in real life. It's just that. It's the idea that uh, with information technologies, we can start to choose who we want to interact with, right? And that starts online, right? You find each other by um, you know the messages that you project out there, and you start to resonate with people, and then you start to connect with them, and you have a conversation with them online, and then maybe you collaborate a little bit, maybe you work on a project together, and then next thing you know, you're talking about, okay, hey man, I really like hanging out with you. Why don't we build something together in the real world? And naturally what happens is that people start coming offline online, and little tribes start forming around the world, connected originally through kind of like a internet community. And we're living proof of that happening. How many people have we met now from the school community who have come to El Salvador or are planning to come to our retreat? And who knows who we resonate with, who we collaborate with, who joins our team. And it's next thing you know, you're hanging around with all types of people that you like and who have a certain skill set that complements yours, and what can be built from that is just pretty amazing. And I definitely think that's the future of community.
It's also a very ripe time in the world for this to play out because so many people are looking to find greener pastures to
Mhm.
plant their flag.
Well, yeah, and why are they trying to find greener pastures? Right? They're trying to find greener pastures because there's an awakening happening, around the world. And COVID was a big deal, right? It was a big shakeup. It made people recognize that a lot of the narratives they believe to be true aren't true, and that a lot of the people that they thought had their back don't actually have their back. And so, wow, what is the truth then? Because I feel like my whole life has been a lie. So they go through that discovery process, they go down the rabbit hole, right? And next thing you know is like, oh man, like the actual what I believe now is so different than what my friends and family believe. Like they're still stuck in the matrix, in believing narratives that are built on sand, right? And the truth is that whatever the truth is, whatever we've come to learn, like the institutions are corrupt. There are politicians are not there to save you. That the world is run by self-interested, greedy people who really couldn't care more about your or less about your well-being. And so it's like, well, I got there's this impulse to almost find people that can see this as well, and be around them because as human beings, we want that for our sanity. Like it's important to be around people who can see what you see, who has the same perspective, same values, are coming from the same place, because otherwise I've lived that life and it's lonely, man. It's lonely being the only one red pilled and while everyone's living in their constructed fiat lifestyle.
Yeah, it's really hard to make lasting friendships, I find, like, or friendships that go past just superficial acquaintances. Remember, like in the last place we were living, I was just the only red pilled person around. And it was just like, great. We have family, friends, and, we can shoot the shit about stuff. But it's hard for me personally to care that much about these superficial acquaintances, not about the person, but just about hanging out. Like I'd rather work, but if it's a friend that it does go deeper, like we have values that we share, we see the world a certain way, then yeah, I want to hang out. It's
Yeah.
like I'd rather hang out. Like we're social creatures. I want to hang out. But when there's nothing deeper there, I'm like, no, I'd rather be alone. I'd rather work. And that's kind of antithetical to who we are as humans. Like we're not supposed to be that way.
Yeah, I think we're supposed to live in tribes, and our tribes are connected by culture, and the culture is built on values and worldviews and so forth.
And that's the thing about the United States, and I guess whatever the West right now is, the culture is so split.
Dude, it is fractured over there, right? It is splintered. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people are just choosing apathy, as opposed to going to some crazy extreme. And then people get mad that you choose apathy. People think you're on the other extreme as them because you chose apathy. Like you just chose not to take part in it. And
Well,
it's just a mess.
So in my opinion, so let's see if we could differentiate a little bit, right? Apathy, in a lot of ways to me is like putting your head in the sand and trying to ignore what's happening, right? And then there's like understanding what's happening with the world, recognizing that a lot of the Western nations and the world in general is going on a decline, that the fiat standard, which propped up our standard of living, is starting to crack and crumble, but also then doing something about it, right? So for me, I've tuned out the clown world a lot, and I've tuned out a lot of what's happening in Western countries, but it doesn't mean that I'm ignorant on it. It just means that I've decided to do something about it, and what I've decided to do is put my energy towards the future, right? And I see El Salvador being a major part of that, where we can build a society and a parallel system that's more optimistic and forward thinking and provides prosperity for all. So this is where my energy is going towards. And the apathy, I feel, is like more like putting your head in the sand, even though everything's, it's like that meme with the dog, right? Where it's everything's on fire and he's like, this is fine.
This is fine.
Yeah.
When I say apathy, I'm referring, to culture. So the culture is all a mess. There's no culture to bind us. And so I think I'm using the term apathy. I think it's a good term, but like towards the cultural aspect of life, we just choose apathy. It was like, I don't have anything to latch onto.
It also
There's
feels
nothing
like you
there.
can't have an effect there because everything's so institutionalized.
Yeah.
A lot of the culture comes top down. And so it's like you got to fight this Leviathan. I think that's the right word, right? You got to fight. You got to go through a labyrinth I don't even know
Yeah,
if I'm
and
using those words right, but like the point is that you just got to go through. You got to untangle a lot of things to have some type of impact. You got to go the political route. You know. I didn't mean to
and
interrupt, but
apathy is just easier. It's just less stressful. You know, it doesn't mean we don't care or we're ignorant. It just means that, like, well, what can I do? I'm not going to play a part of it, which is why we leave. Going back to what we're talking about is the network state idea. Is like you go to a place where it can be real, where your digital connections can become real connections, and you can share a life with people that you see eye to eye with, and then you don't have to be apathetic anymore. You can actually be excited.
Yeah, you know, in my opinion, the way I see it is a lot of the systems in the U.S. are too far gone. They're too far corrupted to the core that they're not salvageable, and so the whole thing is going to like have to get restructured. But in order for that to happen, it first has to crumble, right? But you know, El Salvador can be an example of how to restructure. But there needs to be people here to build out that example.
You know, that's a really good point. And so we moved to the big island of Hawaii to this one particular spot because of the community there. It shared a lot of the same values, blah, blah, blah. And there, though, it's much more of, it's a good example of what I was saying earlier about people just saying, oh, let's live in tribes, you know, money, trading, whatever. No one cares about Bitcoin there. They don't see the use case for it in the same way. But everyone sees the use case for growing your own food and becoming resilient, learning earth skills, all that stuff. Because the perspective there is like, yes, everything is so far gone. Let's just fuck off and not be here in the jungle, provide for ourselves, and everything's cool. And we tried to live there, but it didn't vibe because going, and now I'm seeing something more clearly, which is why I'm sharing it. But what you're saying in El Salvador, we can kind of we can build it again without having to start over from scratch in the raw jungle is
Yeah.
my point, right?
Yeah.
It's like we still got concrete, we still got buildings and stuff, which don't get me wrong, I'm a nature boy. I'd rather be in the raw jungle for the most part. But I do appreciate some good old fashioned capitalism and people trying to get stuff done and innovate and using our minds to make a better society. Like, I think that's just really important. And that's essentially what drove me from Hawaii to here.
Man, I think El Salvador has the right mix of like jungle and modernism. You
There
know?
is a lot of jungle here. I haven't been in a lot of raw jungle here yet, but I also haven't done a lot of exploring. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is beyond that point. It's just kind of like, it's one of the things that I really like about here. It's like, you know, you can be in a really rustic, you know, primitive setting here in a matter of minutes, or you can have a 5-star meal at,
Yeah,
you
right.
know, at an excellent restaurant in 30 minutes.
and pay North American prices. Like, look at this neighborhood we're in. We're in these very modern boxes. We got fiber optic internet, blah, blah, blah. And then you look out in the back and there's just nothing but jungle, a big valley,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
Yeah. I really like it. It's a good mix for me, you know, because like you said, I like, you know, I'm an entrepreneur and we need to get stuff done. It's one of the reasons why we live where we live right here in this part of El Salvador is because we're 25 minutes from the beach, right? So we can go down to the beach, you know, fairly easily. And then if we need stuff from the city in order to further our projects, get stuff done, get stuff printed,
Make content.
yep, it's right there too. It's 20 minutes away. So, like I said, it offers me the best of kind of all my worlds.
Yeah, I agree. And it's great. I mean, so far, it's been really great. I mean, I'm over here getting a lot of stuff done with you guys. I mean, my family's having an experience, you know, getting into a routine and everything, but like, it really is the best of a lot of worlds all in one.
Yeah, and speaking of routines, you know, going all the way back to the beginning of this conversation when we were talking about all the stuff that we had to deal with, you know, it was really tough to get into a routine for the first month while we were here. I mean, we did our best to, you know, create a schedule and follow it and, you know, show up to meetings and stuff like that. But we were constantly getting interrupted by construction workers, by the interior decorator. But one of the things that I realized as things are now starting to taper off, right, all the commotion, all the chaos, is how important routine is, man, for just health and productivity.
Especially in the mornings. It's been awesome to grind my own coffee beans and
Mhm.
circadian max with the boys.
Circadian maxing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you go outside in the morning, it's all three of us just basking in the sun like lizards.
naked.
I don't know about that,
Is that what's going on here?
but
Yeah, the routine thing, like it feels good to finally be able to stabilize a bit. I've been really into like habit tracking and stuff lately. So obviously that is routine and like making the right habits and putting it all together, stacking them. I'm like recognizing the potential now just by keeping on top of it. And I never even had I never cared before. That's the disclaimer. Like living my old life before, like I never cared to optimize so much, but I also never was stabilized enough to have the environment to do that. But
yeah.
now I do care and I have the environment and I'm like, holy moly, look what's possible.
Dude, so I've been habit tracking for the past 2 years. For those that don't know, I run a personal development community called the Sovereign Mindset, and in that community, we have something called the Strongman Challenge, where we basically set our intentions and our goals for the month, and then we break it down into smaller habits and put that on a sheet and just track it on a daily basis. And I've been doing that for 2 years, and it's increased the capacity of what I'm capable of, like, significantly. I get so much more done in a day now than I did 2 years ago. Like, I would say 10 to 100 times more. It's crazy.
It's crazy. And it took me, for me, I did the sheets with you guys. For me, it took like 3 books. I had to read like 3 or 4 books before it finally made sense because I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it before. And I finally just had to study up and it finally made sense to me. And once again, maybe the environment helped. I was finally stable enough to kind of actually practice it and realize what it could do. But like having just little things you do every day, it becomes so important to do them. Like I'll be like super exhausted in the morning or even at night, and I'll just like, nope, I gotta check that off my box. I have to check it off my list, and I'll do it before bed.
Yeah.
Or like this morning, I woke up just horrible, tired, everything, but I did my things because
Yeah.
I'm like, I just have to do it.
And what that does is, like, it builds fortitude, right? So when you're not in the most you know, what would you call that? Conditions, right? Favorable conditions. When you're not in the most favorable conditions, you've built up the muscle memory because you've done it so many times that you don't have to use up all your willpower now to get it done, right? Like, it becomes easier for you to do even in, like, chaotic conditions or conditions that are unfavorable.
And the results compound.
Yes.
Like we talked about last time, right? With the penny, you double a penny every day. Within a month, you have like $10 million.
Yeah.
And you don't even think about that, but it works with anything. And I just find like I spend 30 minutes writing, making content now every day. And then like before I know it, I'm like, wow, I have so much content to work with. Now, and then I add next week, okay, now I'm spending 10 minutes per day organizing content to schedule it.
And you know what else it does? It makes you wonder what's possible, what you're capable of. Like, for me, I went on a walk this morning, and it's one of the things that I have on my sheet too, because I realize how important walks are, right? Especially walks in nature, because there's so much entropy. First of all, it gets your blood flowing. Second of all, there's all this entropy to stimulate the mind and get other neural pathways connected that create ideas. It's just great for creativity, I've found. And so for me, one of the things I thought about on my walk today is like, you know what? I can write a book based off all the experiences I've been having and all the lessons I've been learning. And so I just set a date, November 1st, 2027, I'll be 45 and I'm going to release my book then. And whether it's one page and incomplete or whether it's a masterpiece, doesn't matter. My book is getting released then.
And it's all the same idea. You could literally write 1 page a day for a year and you'll have a book.
Yeah.
And then start over. And then the second year, you'll have the second draft. And by 2027, you'll have the third draft of a great book.
Exactly. And it's also, you can take this beyond yourself and apply it to Sovereignty Studios, right? If we just, get one thing done a day, one big task done a day, in 30 days, that's 30 tasks that got done that get you 30 steps closer to where we want to be. And who knows what transpires within that time frame, right? From you just taking those steps.
Yeah, man. And it's the same with building a business. Imagine you make one sale per day on whatever you're selling, whether it's $10 or $100 or $1,000. Like, you make one sale per day and that compounds.
Yeah.
And before you know it,
you're
you've
making
got a
2,
business.
3, 4 sales a day, And yeah, because there's also all this peripheral information that you learn along the way from taking those steps. that just make you more efficient at doing the thing that you're supposed to do on a daily basis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
From my point of view, it's been amazing to see the progress we made just in the 14 days that I've been here. So I can really resonate with that.
Paul, have you ever been on a on a show, on a podcast like this?
No, this is my first time on any type of proper podcast.
Yeah. And so that's the other part about it too. How many times have we had to get out of our comfort zone, and challenge ourselves? And then once we do it, we realize, oh, that wasn't so bad. I can definitely do that again. And then you just become better at it, And so I've experienced that multiple times. For me, the first thought that comes to mind is public speaking. Prior to this year, I mean, I was terrified to speak publicly. I would shake and my words wouldn't come out right. But, because we're building out Sovereignty Studios, I've, been put in a position to speak now several times in front of people, in front of a crowd. And so each time you do it, it's like, you break barriers and you realize, oh, okay, I can do this. It's within my skill set. I just have to practice and get better at it. But it's not as bad as I originally thought. Like, this is definitely within my character to be able to do this.
Yeah. I think anyone can do pretty much anything. You just got to practice.
Yeah.
Put yourself out there.
What does it say? 10,000 reps makes you a master.
Something like that. Yeah.
Do something 10,000 times before you can.
we're really good at just getting sayings right.
If life gives you pie, eat it. I think it is 10,000 though. I think that is the number. Right?
I think they say 10,000 hours.
10,000
hours. Yeah, it's a mastery.
Yeah.
But yeah, case in point, you can do anything. You just gotta.
Yeah, but you know what? So many people have self-limiting beliefs, right? That they impose on themselves, and it's not even their fault, because I was like that too. Oh, I would always view successful people as something that was different from me.
Wow.
Oh yeah, they're successful, but I don't have what it takes for that to get to that level. Right?
I always thought that about people that made a lot of money, like friends that I went to high school with or whatever, that became entrepreneurs and they're making all this money. I'm like, oh wow, that's just a different type of human.
Yeah.
And then actually today I went through some vulnerability processes myself because I announced the world that I'm going to get rich.
I think you are.
Yeah. Well, no, I just decided like I'm going to do it. And I realized the story in it, the message isn't about like, oh, Jordan's going to make a lot of money. How are you going to do it? No, it's that like, I just know how life works and I know you can do anything you want. You just have to put in the work. You have to organize it, break it up into tasks, and you can get there.
It's just a formula. It's just a process. And that's kind of what I learned from Hormozy. Is just like, it's just basically breaking down what it takes to get to the goal into, a plan and just executing.
Yeah. And then as Napoleon Hill would say in Think and Grow Rich, is you got to practice auto-suggestion. So repeat to yourself 3 times a day what this goal is, how long it's going to take, how you're going to do it. You say that and you drill it into your subconscious and it starts defining your actions in your conscious life.
And that's why I think our Monday meetings are so important, right? Because it sets the tone for the week. It gets us all on the same page as far as what direction we're going. It's kind of like an affirmation. It's like, hey, this is what we're going to achieve this week. This is how we're going to do it. This is who's doing what. And then the rest of the week is just kind of autopilot. You're focused on that.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different, but it's the same.
Well, no, it's like setting your intention. I like to do that on the new moon. And like a lot of times I'll forget about it, but by the end of the moon, it'll become real. It's like, oh, wow, it actually happened. And I actually kind of forgot about it for most of it.
Yeah.
But it's like you set that in play into your subconscious and life has a way of taking care of it. Now, granted, you do have to stay on top of it. Like especially if work is required, you can't just expect magic to happen, manifest it. But most of the time, if you're clear about it and you're aligned with it and it's not something crazy out of the blue, it can happen.
Yeah. That's why I like writing this stuff down, right? Or writing the notes from the meeting down and having it there, like a clear one pager that just kind of tells you what you're going to be doing for the day, for the week, for the month, and that way, whenever you feel yourself getting a little bit off track, and you need to revert back to the mean, just pull that sheet out and just focuses your consciousness back right where you need to be.
And you'll even notice, oh wow, I did all these things. I wasn't even thinking about it, but I already got them done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that was a great show. I think we're good here.
This was an amazing show, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I feel good about that. That was we covered most of our lists. I would say anyone listening, building in El Salvador is an adventure that we really enjoy, and it transcends El Salvador, obviously.
Yeah, we should do a show on that in the future, where it's kind of like what is our transcending mission, and kind of go over that a little bit more. I think that would be good.
Yeah, I think that is where like the network state stuff bleeds in, and the whole sovereign-minded individual.
Mm-hmm. Paul, you got any last thoughts or words?
Not really.
It was good having you on.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
The show
thanks,
goes
Paul.
on. I'm excited for what's to come. That's all I can say. I feel that God has placed me here in this moment in history. I felt an energy pool, and I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was earlier this year, but I knew that I had to get to El Salvador, and things are coming into fruition.
Life was giving you a slice of pie. And
Flan. We're in Latin America,
now you're
and
eating it.
life gave me flan,
You ate it.
and I'm eating it.
And you're eating it, baby. See you next time, everyone.
Adios.
Take care, guys.